The following presentation is for mature audiences only.
Who are you?
He's a fine man.
All hell is broken loose.
He's a great broadcaster.
He's a very powerful guy. Absolutely brilliant.
Feared by men, adored by women.
He's a smart boy.
It's patriotic.
It's no big deal.
It's the end of the world.
I might as well tell you now. He's a monkey.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome into another edition of The Wyldeside with Eric Clark. I am your host, Eric Clark, saying thank you for taking time out of your busy day to give my video a watch and a listen. If you like it, like it. If you think others are going to like it, give it a share. Make sure you're subbed to the YouTube channel and you're following me on all the social media platforms. That way, if there's a band, a song, a video, something you want me to check out, a question you have for me, an answer I can give, you can hit me up with a DM or leave it in the comments below. But if you've watched this channel enough, you know about the I Concur Army, and it's all about looking through. Yours has already been suggested. Leave a like and an I Concur. That helps me put it in the book. Well, today's video is a little different, and before we get into it, I do want to say thank you to Aspen Dental, Connect 200 Music to See, and Gothic Jewelry. They're the reasons I'm not asking you for money, so thank you very much to the sponsors. One of the most common questions I get when I tell people that I work in radio is they ask me what it is I do. Well, I'm a production director and an imaging director for a sports radio station, along with doing voice work for radio stations around the country that I've been asked to do. So, people have asked what it is I do, and sometimes it's hard to describe, especially the imaging part. When I say that I do commercial production, they kind of understand that I make commercials for radio. But when I tell people that I make imaging for radio, they don't really understand what it is I'm talking about. So today I'm just going to show you a real quick example of what it is I do when it comes to the imaging of a radio station. When we say the imaging of a radio station, what we mean is the image in your head that you put there when you hear our radio station. In between the programming, let's go with a music format. You have songs, then you have commercials, and you have a DJ. Well, in all of that, you also have these little tiny pieces of audio. You have 30-second pieces of audio that are telling you about contests or concerts or games or something like that. That is imaging. Those are stagers, promos, liners, things like that. So they need to be built. And that's what I do. I voice and I build these specific pieces of imaging for our sports radio station. Well, today, I'm going to show you just a little thing that I made today for our high school football playoffs. We are in the postseason of high school football, and we are making these unique pieces for each game that we're broadcasting on our radio station. Well, it is the semifinals, and I put together this little minute 10-second preview of what this weekend's game is going to be. And it really all starts with a script. So I will get the information on the teams and the game and what is happening with sponsors and things like that. And I will write up this script. Welcome into a special broadcast of the Mid-State Checkdown postseason on Nashville Sports Radio. Real basic stuff, real basic intros. I go over the script, make sure everything is spelled correctly. When I see somebody's names down here, for example, I have to make sure that I'm saying it correctly. So sometimes I'll reach out and I'll ask, hey, is it Gramos or Gromos? Which one is it? Stuff like that. But scripts are real basic. And then once I get a script, I go into what is known as Adobe Audition. I call it Cool Edit Pro. I've been using this for 20 years now, it feels, if not more. I know that there are many other programs out there that people are using, Pro Tools, Vegas, SoundForge, things like that. I love Cool Edit Pro. If I need to do something else, I'll use a different program. But for what I do and what I need, Cool Edit Pro or Adobe Audition is actually perfect for me. I like the old format because it's just more familiar in my brain. So what you're going to see on the screen is about a 20-year-old program. But guys like me, old heads like me, have been using it forever because we're just more comfortable with it. I know where all the plugins are. I don't have to relearn any new stuff because it's labeled differently. I can zip through it nice and easy. So I'll go into Adobe Audition, open up my microphone, and I will record that script. The first two tracks that you see on this screen, the top two tracks, are my vocals. So I'll take my vocals and I'll put them through a little processing, a little amplification, get everything looking nice and even. I want everything to look nice and clean through this vocal audio. I don't want anything trailing off or ramping up. I want it nice and solid. So what I normally do is I put a processing on it, a 2-to-1. So I put the negative 24 vocal compression on it. Just a little bit of compression, not much. And then I amplify it by 5 decibels. And that 5 decibels gets it into a nice range where it's not overmodulated. When I say overmodulated, what I mean is speakers rattling. You don't want speakers rattling. You don't want it to sound muffled. You want it to sound nice and clean. Oh, sorry. You want it to sound nice and clean.
Nashville Christian head coach Jeff Brothers and his
nice and thick and nice and clean in its delivery. And then once I get it recorded, now all I'm doing is lining everything up with the sound effects and the music beds that I put underneath it. So here's my vocals right here.
Welcome in to a special broadcast of the Mid-State Checkdown postseason on Nashville Sports Radio.
So I time it and I layer it so you can't, I take out my breaths is what I do. So what I do is I layer it right over the end of one and the beginning of the other.
Sports Radio. Tonight's T.
Okay, so I wanted a nice smooth transition and a nice forward momentum in its flow. So once I get the vocals all timed out, lined up, compressed, and amplified, I can then look at how I want this to flow. I want it to move in a forward momentum. I want the whole radio station to be moving forward. I don't want any pauses in the attitude of the radio station. So I want to use very upbeat, very forward-moving music and sound effects. So the one sound effect I'm going to use to kick it off is something called a stager. And these are made by companies that you subscribe to, and they'll send it to you. You can build it yourself if you want to. I build them myself a lot of times because I just have a different idea in my head of what I want it to sound like. So what I do is I'll build this little tiny stager at the beginning, and it kicks off the entire attitude of the piece.
Let's do it tonight. Let's go get it. Welcome.
Okay. So I've got that at the beginning, so now I want to go into some really good, crunchy, upbeat music.
Let's do it tonight. Let's go get it. Welcome in to a special broadcast of the Mid-State Checkdown postseason on Nashville Sports Radio.
And you want that moving forward. You want it fast. You want it crunchy. You want it in your face, but in the background. And what I always do is I always try to get right here, in this little spot right here, this last little spot, I want this beginning beat and that ending beat to be lined up. I want them to be right on each other. So it has a nice, easy transition.
Let's go get it. Welcome in.
Right there.
Let's go get it. Welcome in to a special broadcast of the Mid-State Checkdown postseason on Nashville Sports Radio. Tonight's TSSAA 2A semifinal sees Nashville Christian and Jackson Christian in a rubber match from last season. Nashville Christian head coach Jeff Brothers and his 9-2 Eagles.
So now that I have that moving, it's going to change because I'm going to talk about the other team. So when I'm talking about the other team, I want to transition again into a forward-moving momentum in the sound. So I'm going to transition from one team into the next, but I'm also going to bring in a different music bed and a little exploding blasting cap to kind of make that transition a little bit smoother.
It's in the championship game. Standing in their way are the 10-1 Eagles of Jackson Christian under head coach Darby Palmer, looking to get his team to the championship game for the second time.
So it's building. I want it to be building. So when we finally get to the second part of this stager, of this element, I want it to be hitting its crescendo. So as we're building towards the end, I want it to hit a peak right before the end. I want it to end on a high note so that it's going into the broadcast with a good punch. So from right here, I want it moving in a very good direction. And that's when we start talking about sponsorships and things like that, and we're building towards the end of this element.
The second time. Tonight's special broadcast of the Mid-State Checkdown postseason also sees a reunion in the broadcast booth, bringing together the legendary Vanderbilt broadcast team of Joe Fisher.
It's just got a nice, good rhythm to it. And then when we get towards the end and we want to wrap it up, how do we wrap it up? We want to wrap it up with a punch. So right here, this final beat is hitting, and the first beat of this music bed is hitting, so it's going to blend real nice. Check this out.
Zen Shakes in Brentwood and the Omni Nashville Hotel. Two programs fighting for Wood and the Omni Nashville Hotel. Two programs.
That's what I want. I want everything to flow. The vocals are one thing. That's ancillary to what I'm doing. Really, the meat of this, the whole meat of this entire element are these three tracks right here.
Let's go get it.
from one into the other. Good transitions is what I'm looking for. All right? That's all I'm looking for. That's it. So once I get everything lined up, I have everything timed out. I have all of my levels checked. Nothing is too loud. Nothing is too, I don't want any of, even though these 3 tracks are the impetus of this piece, I don't want them to be in the forefront. I want it to be just barely underneath, but it's still the heartbeat of the element. And the vocals are describing what's going on, but really the push of this element is going to be those sounds moving through. So then once we get everything lined up, we're going to mix it down to one file. What I love about digital audio editing is there's no generational loss with tape. All right, so I can mix this down and edit and do stuff with it all day long, and I'm never going to lose any audio quality of the recordings. That's one of the things I love about these programs. So let's mix it all down, see how it sounds. So we mix it down to one file, and here's what it looks like. So I'm going to put a final processing on it. My final processing is just to smooth the edges, so to speak. It's just going to smooth the edges out. Boom. Now, here we go.
Let's stimulate tonight. Let's go get it. Welcome in to a special broadcast of the Mid-State Checkdown postseason on Nashville Sports Radio. Tonight's TSSAA 2A semifinal sees Nashville Christian and Jackson Christian in a rubber match from last season. Nashville Christian head coach Jeff Brothers and his 9-2 Eagles are looking to book their 3rd appearance in the championship game. Standing in their way are the 10-1 Eagles of Jackson Christian under head coach Darby Palmer, looking to get his team to the championship game for the 2nd time. Tonight's special broadcast of the Mid-State Checkdown postseason also sees a reunion in the broadcast booth, bringing together the legendary Vanderbilt broadcast team of Joe Fisher and John Gramos. The Mid-State Checkdown postseason semifinal is brought to you by Sir Speedy of Music City, Boomba's Craft Beer and Pizza, Southern Trophy House, Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes in Brentwood, and the Omni Nashville Hotel. 2 programs fighting for one spot in the championship. Nashville Christian, Jackson Christian, right here on your home for Middle Tennessee high school football postseason coverage. WNSR, Nashville Sports Radio.
That's how I want it to end. And if you notice right here through the sponsorship, when I brought into the sponsorship, I even made sure that the bed I was using had a little bit of a lighter drive to it so that the sponsors' names would get read a little bit more clear. So when you look at it, it's these little things that you do. Right here are the sponsors, so that modulation drops. The amplification drops within the bed itself. So it's a little trick that you can find the right bed.
Final is brought to you by Sir Speedy of Music City, Boomba's Craft Beer and Pizza, Southern Trophy House, Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes in Brentwood, and
it's just little tricks that you pick up along the way to help make you're trying to make it sound big. You want it to sound huge. You want it to sound monstrous. So it's creating this overwhelming image in somebody's head as they're listening to it. So that's just something. Somebody was asking me what it is I do. I've tried to explain many, many times that I sit in a padded room, talk to myself, and make noises. So yeah, that's it. I just sit in here. I'll put down the vocals. I'll sit here and come up with the beds and the transitions, and I really enjoy it. I think it's fun. This is probably the best part of my job, is being able to sit down and be creative and look at something that's written on a piece of paper, and in my head, I'm building audio elements around it. So I find it fun. It was something that I started doing years and years ago, and the more I got into it and the more I started doing it in radio, I realized I have more fun doing this than I do being actually on the air. To me, this is just, you can be creative. They're little 1-minute pieces of art, 10-second pieces of art. I love doing them. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. I hope that was clear. If you have any other questions about radio and what it is I do, you're more than welcome to ask me. I try to be as forthcoming and honest as possible. So it was just a little peek behind the curtain, if you will. Again, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy day to watch my madness and see what I do when I'm not doing video reactions to your bands. This is what I'm doing. So sitting down and putting together these little tiny pieces of audio that I know nobody really cares about, but for me, they are unique and individual pieces of art that represent my personality. I feel they represent the radio station very well. I don't care what the cause of the audio is. I don't care who the client is. I'm going to do the best I can to make it sound as good as possible. So it's just because I love doing it. I think it's fun. I think it's creative. And not a lot of people can do it. So there is a niche there. So again, thank you very much for the question. If you have any other questions, just hit me up with a DM or leave it in the comments down below. Thank you to Aspen Dental, Connect 200, Music 2C, and Gothic Jewelry. You're the reason I'm not asking you guys for money. So thank you very much to them. Don't forget, tomorrow, Saturday, 2 p.m. Central Time, the Wyldeside Live. 2 p.m. for 2 hours, we sit and do a live stream, and I answer all of your questions, and we have great conversations about rock and roll, pop culture, and all kinds of stuff. So don't forget, tomorrow, 2 p.m., but it's subscribers only. Only subscribers can get in the chat and ask me questions. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and make sure you're following me on all the social media platforms. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy day to watch my video. I will see you on the live side. Make sure you're looking out for each other. That sounded so bad. Make sure you're looking out for each other. Make sure you're looking out for your neighbor. Try to do at least one good thing a day. I am Eric Clark, and this has been The Wyldeside.